pride of the people. This
Yes, an amazing Monday morning to you listeners out there. The program you're on to is In the Papers, coming to you from the stables of our Power 102.7 FM. It is a program where we preview and review newspaper headlines and news making round in the papers for your listening pleasure. I am INIOLUWA Adekoya, and with me on the program this morning is
Florence Ibarimo.
Yes, this morning I've got the Daily Post newspaper, the Guardian newspaper, and the Daily Trust newspaper. We also have
Headlines from the Sun newspaper this morning. We have Daily Post, we have the Hope newspaper, and the Punch newspaper this Monday morning.
Right about now, we will go on a short break. When we get back, we will give you headlines from the various newspapers aforementioned. Yes, glad to have you back. Like I said earlier, the program is in the papers on iPower 102.7 FM. Beginning on the list of the top of the list of our headlines this morning from the Guardian newspaper, parties begin candidate upload, express confidence ahead of INEC's deadline.
Still talking INEC, where we have from the Hope newspaper, INEC begins PVC distribution ahead of Osun Guba poll.
Still on the Guardian newspaper, cooking gas imports surge by 1,400% as petrol supply dips by 22%.
Still taking headlines from the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have a talk on Ondo State. Parents' schools divided over government ban on graduation ceremony.
Yes, still on the Guardian newspaper, battle for excess liquidity, DMO Dangote mobilize 11 trillion naira in 6 months as real sector struggles.
Talking Osun election, where we have Muslim community charge Oye Bamiji to unfairness and justice. And that headline is coming from the Hope newspaper this morning.
Still on the Guardian newspaper, Sanfeld's poll as Badijo Okunsonya emerges 33rd NBA president.
Yes, away from that and now to the Punch, where we have U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance announces birth of a baby boy.
Yes, still on the Guardian newspaper, ICPC secures forfeiture of 941.9 million naira from IPPIS ghost workers.
Yes, still taking headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have dollar sale roll. Marketers halt Dangote fuel loading and FG steps in.
Still on the Guardian newspaper, SEC tightens settlement rules to strengthen investors' confidence.
Okay, still on the headlines, and today we have this one coming to you from the Sun newspaper that says Kogi deploying hunters, vigilantes, ICT and security forces to tackle insecurity. And that's coming from Governor Ododo.
1 killed, many missing as boats capsized in Jigawa, and that is from the Daily Trust newspaper.
Yes, still on the Sun newspaper this morning, where we have suspected Boko Haram terrorists abduct pastor's wife. 3 children in Borno State.
Still on the Daily Trust newspaper, Atiku to Tinubu, you owe Nigerians explanation on 12.8 trillion naira in 2026 budget.
Still taking headlines and away from the Sun and now to Daily Post newspaper this Monday morning, where we have Tinubu pushes ECOWAS to confront South Africa over attacks on Nigerians.
Still on the Daily Trust newspaper, rainstorm kills 4, destroys several houses in Sokoto.
Still taking headlines and this from the Sun news, the Daily Post newspaper, where we have NAN slams Uniport over students' union dissolution, insisting on due process.
Still taking headlines from the Daily Trust newspaper, Adibutu, all Nigerian governors guilty of embezzling local government allocations.
We would go on a very short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the details of the headlines.
Yes, welcome back. Like I said earlier, the program is in the papers on iPower 102.7 FM.
Yes, we have this coming to you from the Hope newspaper talking on those states. Parents, schools are divided over government's ban on graduation ceremony. Now the details. The Ondo State government's ban on graduation and promotion ceremonies for pupils and students is non-terminal classes has continued to generate mixed reactions. Investigations reveal that some parents and private school proprietors are backing the policy while others oppose it, even as the government insists that directive is in the best interest of children and has come to stay. The Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Professor Igbekele Ajibefon, maintained that the decision was introduced to relieve parents of unnecessary financial burden amid the prevailing economic challenges and to curb the growing trend of school organizing elaborate graduation ceremonies for pupils who are not leaving their respective classes. According to him, schools have turned such ceremonies into avenues for imposing excessive charges on parents. Ajibefun disclosed that zonal education officers had been deployed across the 18 local government areas to monitor compliance, adding that the ministry had already intervened in some schools after parents reported the continuous collection of prohibited fees. While many stakeholders welcomed the directive, others questioned its implication and overall impact. A school proprietor, Mr. Emmanuel Folushaw said the school had fully complied with the government's directive by restricting graduation ceremonies to primary 6 pupils proceeding to secondary school. He explained that parents had accepted the policy because the government had not abolished graduation ceremonies entirely, but had only limited them to terminal classes. For details of that story, see the Hope newspaper with this headline: Parents, schools divided over government ban on graduation ceremony.
And now 2 petroleum martyrs on the Guardian newspaper: cooking gas imports. Yes, and now on the Guardian newspaper, cooking gas imports surged by 1,400% as petrol supply dips by 22%. And now to the details. Nigeria's imports of liquefied petroleum gas (LPG), also known as cooking gas, jumped by 1,400% in June 2026 as domestic supply weakened, raising fresh concerns over the country's growing dependence on imported fuel despite its vast natural gas reserves. Data from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority from June 2026 show that LPG import rose just 0.1 kilotons per day in May to 1.5 kilotons per day in June, representing a 1,400% increase. The surge in imports came as domestic LPG supply fell by 10%, dropping from 4.0 KT per day in May to 3.6 KT per day in June. However, overall LPG receipts increased by 24% to 5.1 KT per day from 41 KT per day recorded in the previous month, with imported volumes accounting for virtually all of the growth. A breakdown of the supply sources showed that imports contributed 1.539 KT per day, making up nearly 30% of the country's total daily LPG supply of 5.164 KT per day in June. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Guardian newspaper with the headline: cooking gas imports surged by 1,400% as petrol supply dips by 22%.
Yes, away from that, now still taking headlines from the Sun newspaper this morning, where we have INEC begins PVC's distribution ahead of Ocean gubernatorial poll. Now the details. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has announced the commencement of the distribution of permanent voters card (PVCs) to eligible voters ahead of the August 15, 2026 Osun State governorship election. In a statement issued on Monday by the Resident Electoral Commissioner (REC) in the state, Mrs. Oluwatoyin Babalola, the Commission said the exercise is targeted at those who registered, transferred their voters' registration, applied for the replacement of lost or damaged PVCs, or updated their record during the recently concluded Continuous Voters Registration (CVR) exercise. According to the Commission, the PVC collection exercise will begin at the registration area RA level across the state from Wednesday, July 22 to Tuesday, July 28, 2026, between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. daily, including weekends. INEC disclosed that after the registration area level distribution, the exercise will continue at its local government area office from Wednesday, July 29 to Friday, August 7, 2026, also between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. daily, including weekends. The Commission explained that the phased distribution is designed to make the collection process easier and more accessible for voters across the state. Mrs. Babalola urged all eligible voters to collect their PVCs within the stipulated period, stressing that permanent voters card remain the only valid means of accreditation for participation in the governorship election. She further announced that uncollected PVCs from previous voters registration exercise would also be made available during this distribution period, giving eligible voters another opportunities to retrieve their cards. The REC, however, warned that PVC's collection is strictly personal, emphasizing that collections by proxy is prohibited under the Electoral Act and would not be permitted under any circumstances. She reaffirmed that the Commission's commitment to delivering free, fair, credible, inclusive and transparent governorship election in Osun State. If that story aligns with your interests, it is on the pages of the Hope newspaper this morning with this headline: INEC begins PVC distribution ahead of Osun Guba poll.
Still on the Guardian newspaper on my end, San felt pro as Badijo Okunsoya emerges 33rd MBA president. And now to the details. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, SAN, Mrs. Oyin Consola Badijo Okunsoya had 7,939 votes, or 30.39%, while the third presidential candidate, INIOLUWA Akimboro SAN, polled 5,855 votes, representing 22.43%. Adulam disclosed that a total of 26,100 valid votes were recorded in the presidential election. With the victory, Badijo Okunsoya will succeed the outgoing NBA president Mazi Afam Osigwe SAN and will lead the country's largest professional association of lawyers for 2-year tenure spanning from 2026 to 2028. The ECNBA also announced the winners of other national office by the presidential candidate in the election, Olumuyiwa Akimboro SAN, has renewed his attack on the conduct of the poll, alleging that the exercise was riddled with irregularities that prevented him from effectively participating and undermined the credibility of the election. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Guardian newspaper with the headline, San felt poll as Badijo Okunsoya emerges 33rd NBA president.
Yes, still taking headlines and still on the Punch newspaper, where we have water ministry workers demand salary review, career progression. Now the details. The trade group of the Federal Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation and the River Basin Development Authorities under the National Union of Agricultural and Allied Employees has called on federal government to settle outstanding promotion areas owed to workers from 2019 to date. The union also demanded a review of the salary structure for the River Basin Development Authority's personnel, improved career progression, regular promotional exercises, and increased investment in staff capacity development. The demand was presented on Thursday by the chairman of the forum, Ambrose Igebo, during a courtesy visit to the Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Utesi. Speaking during the meeting, Ambrose described the engagement as the beginning of a new chapter of collaboration between the ministry's leader and its workforce. The union pledged to maintain industrial harmony while urging the minister to prioritize workers' welfare through enhanced capacity development and professional training. It also called for policy review that would allow qualified career officers in the River Basin Development Authorities to progress beyond the rank of director to executive position, including executive director and the managing director. The workers further demanded an upward review of the salary structure for RBDA personnel and urged the ministry to ensure that promotional exercises are conducted within the first quarter of every year to prevent delay in salary adjustment. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the pages of the Punch newspaper with this headline: Water Ministry workers demand salary review and career progression.
Still on the Guardian newspaper, ICPC secure forfeiture of 941.9 million naira from IPPRS ghost workers. And now to the details. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission has secured a final forfeiture order of 941 million naira allegedly linked to ghost worker fraud uncovered during investigation into the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System IPPIS. Justice Binta Inyako of the Federal High Court in Abuja granted the order following the ex parte application filed by the ICPC on behalf of federal government seeking the forfeiture of the funds believed to be proceeds of the unlawful activities. The ruling followed an extensive investigation into payroll fraud that allegedly involved hundreds of fictitious public servants across several ministries, departments and agencies and DAs. As part of legal process, the ICPC said it published the names of 910 suspected beneficiaries of the alleged fraud in a Daily Trust and the Punch newspaper on the 18th of March 2026, inviting anyone with legitimate claims to the funds to come forward. According to the Commission, the investigation stemmed from a 2023 system study that uncovered widespread irregularities in the IPPIS and revealed numerous ghost workers embedded in government institutions' payroll. Following the findings, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approved the comprehensive audit of the payroll platform, leading to a joint investigation by the ICPC and the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, OAGF, in April 2024. The investigation reportedly uncovered 587 suspected ghost workers on the IPPIS platform. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Guardian newspaper with the headline: ICPC secure forfeiture of 941.9 million from IPPIS ghost workers.
Yeah, still taking headlines away from the Punch newspaper this morning and now to the Sun, where we have reasons we are prioritizing state police, and that is coming from the senators. Now the details. Senators have defended the National Assembly's decision to prioritize constitutional amendment on the establishment of state police, saying that the country's worsened insecurity makes the proposal an urgent national priority. The lawmaker gave the clarification while responding to concerns that the National Assembly appeared to be focusing more on state police than other constitutional amendment proposal. Senate leader Opeyemi Bamidele, in his reaction, said insecurity remains the foremost concern of Nigerians. Bamidele, who spoke through the Directorate of the Media and Public Affairs, said this was why priorities seem to be given to state police. Senate leader, who is also a deputy chairman of the Constitution Review Committee, said the 10th National Assembly could not afford to downplay issues relating to state police. This is said had even become necessary because the issue of state police was coming at a time when security challenges continue to threaten lives and properties across the country. Also, Senate Minority Leader Senator Abbas Moro, PDP Benue South, dismissed suggestions that other constitutional amendment proposal had been abandoned. Moro explained that the Constitutional Review Committee had deliberately segmented the amendment process to fast-track urgent issues, particularly state police. Ali Ndume, APC Borno South, equally said that security remained the primary responsibility of government, making the establishment of state police a necessary constitutional reform. Ndume, who chaired the Senate Committee on Army, said he had
0.8 trillion naira in 2026 budget. And now to the details. Presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Atiku Abubakar, has described the 2026 federal budget as the most brazen assault on transparency and fiscal responsibilities in the Nigerian democratic history, following shocking revelations surrounding the unprecedented allocations concealed under the Service-Wide Vote (SWV). In a statement issued by Senior Special Assistant in Public Communication Frank Shaibu, Atiku said the discovery that 84% of the entire 2026 budget is concentrated in just 10 ministries, departments and agencies (MDAs), with an outstanding 12.8 trillion naira were ousted under service-wide vote in the Ministry of Budget, and a of naira have been parked on the vague and discretionary add-in with no clearly defined obligations. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Trust newspaper with the headline, Atiku to Tinubu, you owe Nigerians explanation on 12.8 trillion naira in 2026 budget.
You're still listening to us from iPower 102.7 FM. And the program is In the Papers, your daily drive for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. We would go on a short break. When we come back, we continue with the rest of the news and its details.
Yes, glad you're still there. The program is in the papers on iPower 102.7 FM. And now back to the Daily Post newspaper. Adibutu, all Nigerian governors guilty of embezzling local government allocations. And now to the details. The People's Democratic Party PDP governorship candidate in Ogun State, Oladipo Adibutu, has alleged that all governors in Nigeria are misappropriating local government allocations. Adebutu made the remarks at the Ake Palace in Abeokuta during a meeting with the Egba Traditional Council, where he sought the support and blessing of traditional rulers for his governorship ambition. It was accompanied by his running mate, Dr. Lateef Showumi Kolakbo, and the PDP senatorial candidate of the Ogun Central, Iyabo Obasanjo, the Ogun State PDP chairman, Abayomi Tella, and other party leaders and candidates. Addressing the traditional rulers, Adibutu declared the granting full financial autonomy to local government would be one of the defining policies of his administration. Adibutu further accused governors across party lines of diverting local government funds. The PDP candidate also reflected on his years in public office and his family's legacy of community development. He added that while he had continued the community development efforts associated with his father and grandfather, he had realized that without executive powers, there is a limit to what an individual can do to develop a society. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Trust newspaper with the headline, Adibutu, all Nigerian governors guilty of embezzling local government allocations.
Still taking headlines from the Sun newspaper this morning, where we have Kogi deploying hunters, vigilantes, ICT and security forces to tackle insecurity. And that is coming from Governor Ododo. Now the details. The governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, has revealed that his administration is deploying the service of hunters, vigilantes, information and communication technology, ICT, and regular security forces to tackle insecurity across the state. The governor, represented by the State Commissioner for Information and Communication, Kingsley Fowle, spoke during an inspection tour of projects in the state by the Renewed Hope Ambassador in collaboration with the presidential media team across some local government areas in Kogi West Senatorial District. He said the deployment was a keen security force would make it impossible for the non-state actors to attack schools in the state except those in miracle centers, emphasizing this would make possible that this was made possible by the fund made available to state by the administration of President Bola Tinubu, while explaining the security arrangements put in place to protect the
Million Naira Jigawa General Hospital renovation contract. And now to the details. Jigawa State Governor Umar Namadi has ordered the immediate suspension of 1.3 billion contract for the renovation and remodeling of Gomo General Hospital. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, Governor Namadi suspends 1.3 billion Naira Jigawa General Hospital renovation contracts.
You're still listening to us from iPower 102.7 FM. And yes, the program is in the papers, your trusted guide for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. Yes, away from that and now to Daily Post, where we have Nan slams Uniport over Students' Union dissolution, insisting on due process. Now the details. The National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, has condemned the decision by the University of Port Harcourt to dissolve its student union government, SUG, describing the action as a violation of student democratic rights and calling for immediate reversal. In a statement signed by its national president, Akinteye Babatunde Aviz. At the weekend, Nance expressed concern over the memorandum issued by the university's Office of the Dean of Student Affairs, announcing the dissolution of the Student Union, all representative and other students' union activities with immediate effect, while acknowledging the university's management authority to investigate allegations of misconduct involving elected student leaders. Nan argued that dissolving the student union without due process, transparency, or a fair hearing was unacceptable. Nansa also questioned the aspect of the university's directive, noting that the memorandum instructed union officials to immediately hand over union properties, documents, and other financial record, while also requiring them to appear before an investigative panel when invited. The association said the development raised concerns about the transparency, fairness, and independence of the investigative process. The student body urged the university management to suspend the implementation of the dissolution order, respect the mandate of the elected union officials, and publicly disclose the reason behind the decision. It also called for the establishment of an impartial investigative panel and demanded that the affected student leaders be guaranteed their right to fair hearing. It, however, argued that accountability should not be used to undermine student democratic institutions or suppress legitimate student representation. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the pages of the Daily Post newspaper this morning.
Make Bajabia Miller from the list of invited witnesses. The inauguration and public hearing will take place at the National Assembly Complex, Abuja, in line with Section 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which empower the National Assembly to investigate matters relating to administration of public institutions and the management of public funds. The committee, chaired by the member representing Kanke Kanam Pakshin Federal Constituency of Plateau State, Yusuf Gadi, was constituted 2 weeks ago following a resolution of the House during plenary, presided over by Speaker Abbas. Its assignment is to investigate how budgetary provisions amounting to about 1.32 billion naira were made in favor of the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, an agency that had not legally been established. The probe followed the arrest of Mr. Adeyemi Adeniyi, who allegedly presented himself as the Director General of the PFIPC and is accused of orchestrating the inclusion of the agency in the 2026 budget despite its non-existence. Controversy deepened after Adeniyi reportedly claimed he paid 100 million naira through proxies to Bajabia Miller to facilitate the establishment of the agency. The allegation has been denied by both the presidency and the office of the chief of staff. A copy of the committee invitation signed by Gadi and obtained by Newsman stated that the hearing would bring together key government officials, civil society organizations, professional bodies, development partners, and the media and members of the public. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, Fake Agency Scandal, Abbas inaugurates probe panel today.
Still taking headlines and still on Daily Post, where we have World Cup 2026. Same way we will beat Tinubu in 2027 poll. That is coming from Shore congratulating Spain. Now the details. The presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, has congratulated Spain for beating Argentina in 2026 World Cup final on Sunday. In a post on his verified X handle, Showore said it will be the same way to beat President Bola Tinubu in the 2027 general elections. Daily Post report that Spain won the 2026 World Cup following the 1-0 victory over defending champions Argentina on Sunday. Recall that Spanish national football team La Roja won the first World Cup in 2010. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the pages of Daily Post with this headline, Same way we will beat Tinubu in 2027 polls. Showore congratulates Spain.
Still talking World Cup on the Punch newspaper. Teen dies, several injured during Spain World Cup celebration. And now to the details. A teenager died and several people were injured during celebrations of Spain's victory in the World Cup after a fountain collapsed in the west of the country. Local authorities and media said the city hall of Ciudad Rodrigo expresses its sadness and presents its condolences for the death of a boy of 13. What should have been made a celebration of Spain's team in the Football World Cup turned into a tragedy. A few minutes after 12:30 a.m. local time, rescue services received calls over a fountain collapsing on numerous people. Local media reported that the fountain collapsed under the weight of numerous people who had climbed onto it to celebrate the Spain's first World Cup victory since 2010 in the football-mad nation. Spain's victory sparked nationwide celebrations as thousands of fans poured into city squares, streets, and public landmarks to mark the country's first FIFA World Cup triumph since 2010. Similar scenes of jubilation were reported across several Spanish cities, with countries waving flag, singing and climbing monuments and public structures. However, large spontaneous celebrations have occasionally led to accidents and injuries, prompting authorities to repeatedly urge fans to celebrate responsibly and avoid climbing on public infrastructure. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, Teen dies, several injured during Spain World Cup celebration.
Away from Daily Post and now to the Nation's newspaper, where we have a Deji Adeleke seeks neutral roles for police, electoral officers, election rigging. Now the details. Governor Ademola Adeleke's elder brother, Deji Adeleke, has urged security and electoral officers to be neutral in the forthcoming governorship poll in Osun State. He frowned at the involvement of police officers and National Youth Service Corps members, NYSC, in election malpractice. The industrialist urged them to be neutral. Speaking on yesterday at the 12th convocation ceremony of Adeleke University at the Osun State, the industrialist lamented that the complicity in rigging and election and result manipulation continues to undermine Nigerians' democracy and discourage foreign investors away of political instability. He recalled that the foreign financiers had once questioned the viability of investing in Nigeria due to election marred by violence, vote manipulation, and injustice. Until Nigerians ensure that votes are truly count and uphold the integrity. This headline. Deji Adeleke seeks neutral roles for police and electoral officers as regards election rigging.
Still on the Punch newspaper, Andy Burnham set to take over as new British Prime Minister. And now to the details. Andy Burnham will today become Britain's 7th Prime Minister in a decade, with an entry overflowing with challenges and that have trounced his predecessors and little time to make his mark. The new leaders take over from unpopular Keir Starmer just 2 years after the outgoing The Punch newspaper with the headline, Andy Burnham set to take over as new British Prime Minister today.
Yes, lastly, on the Punch newspaper for today, where we have Unical orders crack down on wild graduation celebration and court activities. Now the details. The University of Calabar has reiterated its ban on wild post-examination celebrations and other acts capable of disrupting peace on campus. The registrar of the institute, in a statement today in Calabar, Chukwuka expressed concerns over some students, particularly final year students, engaged in unlawful celebration after their final examination. According to her, such celebration often involve reckless driving, flying out colors, and other forms of disorderly conduct. She advised all students, especially finalists, to desist from such acts and comply with the university's regulation. She added that the acting chief security officer had been directed to ensure strict enforcement across the campus and its environ. The registrar urged members of the university community to take note of the directive and comply accordingly. It will be recalled that in 2024 there was a serious crash in the school premises which involved final year students who just wrote their last paper and were celebrating widely on campus. For details of that news, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: UNICAL orders crackdown on wild graduation celebration and court activities.